Welcome back.
No, please don't flash me.
Yeah, the bright lord of his light of his wraith is just. I mean, I
So,
guess we're saving.
do you take falling damage?
Absolutely not. If anything, a perk that you acquire, if you actually jump from a sufficient distance like this, you can then sprint Sonic the Hedgehog style to cover more ground in a
So,
faster way.
drop dash of sorts.
Basically, one of the key components of this game, and especially the sequel, will be your mobility. You know, Talion is a ranger after all, and this race is boosting a bit his capabilities. So again, in order to traverse a vast area, you're required to actually be fast enough. So thankfully, again, the game provides you very good tools on the matter.
What year did this game come out? 2014?
2014, though it was in development for a while.
That would fit. I noticed a lot of games.
This was the studio that made the, and mind you, this was the studio that made the Fear games, shooters with a horror component.
Wow.
But anyway,
really changed
let's
things
start
up.
this next quest line. Oh boy. We're about to befriend an orc, believe it or not.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, befriend is a complex term.
Those slave scum are pouring poison in your ear. Oh, but you cut these ropes. Ratbag will tell you everything.
This is Ratbag, voiced by Nolan North.
I'm guessing he will be a recurring character.
At least for this first half of the game. He's
Oh.
there to introduce us to the mechanics of the hierarchy of the orcs.
I was about to ask, is he the equivalent to that one informant guy in Spider-Man 3 who just happens to know everything?
No.
I guess.
I was just look, those slaves are no match for the orc army. Their schemes as rotten as barrel fish. But Ratbag can teach you the ways of the orc. Ratbag can make your plan work.
We're going to find out what you know.
So let's see what Ratbag has to say. Okay, what we do, I showcased a video on the previous Spotify already, but what we do, thanks to interrogating a worm, as in orcs with a green aura, again, like the Iridly informant, is to discover information about the captains. In this case, for example, these higher Uruk that Ratbag wants to, to kill and take his place of, has specific vulnerabilities and strengths instead. Like I said, it's a key component to learn each and every captain's qualities in order to exploit the weaknesses and be wary of the strengths. As the game progresses and as the Nemesis system allows the Uruk's captains to grow, the weakness will become potentially more scarce and instead the strength will potentially more visible. So you need to also always watch out.
Wow.
Your problem, Ranger.
So, Tio, you mentioned earlier that you can actually manipulate things so that a certain mook actually becomes promoted to chief. Can they ever end up replacing one of the war chiefs that you're hunting down?
Yes, don't worry, Drova. We'll get to that soon enough.
How? They're not very popular around here, and I know it.
I think the general business with this game is, yeah, the story is there and not the most fleshed out, but it feels like the story is basically just a vehicle to let you essentially play a life simulator
Pretty much.
what it's like.
At least for this game, the weaker parts are the beginning and, spoiler alert, to the end. But the middle part is juicy enough to sustain it.
It seems like definitely the main focus of this game is, hey, here's the day in the life of somebody who lives in Mordor. Have a ball.
Go and have fun.
You know what? I can appreciate games
Or
like
Talion.
these, even if unfortunately sometimes it tends
Also,
that there's...
Notice how Celebrine Boy also this. Unfortunately, being a game done around this time, you get these segments where you have to follow an NPC while walking slowly and having to hear what they talk about. Now, thankfully, the game doesn't actively cages you, 100%. You can still move freely if you want. It's just that if you just leave the controller down there, the game will just do this.
Huh.
So at the very least, there is a minimal degree still of, freedom for your movement.
I'm fine
I
with
will
stuff.
demonstrate it soon enough.
I'm normally fine with stuff like this because it's usually hiding loading sequences anyway, and in this case, it's at least some good dialogue. Oh, it's an escort mission.
Don't worry. Well, it's an escort mission of exactly the nature, but you think of Ratbag's health pool is high enough for for you to be able to handle the enemies. Keep in mind also that remember this first game has a fixed difficulty setting, so again everything is relatively balanced, just enough. It's not super easy mode, but it's not even completely hard.
It's weird. You'd think him being an orc that Ratbag would be able to try and fight back a bit.
That's the thing. You have to notice from the cutscene, Ratbag is the kind of orc that is relatively weak on a physical strength, but wants to make a career just to be drunk on power. And Talion is just the perfect opportunity that he can get.
Oh, he's that kind of opportunist. Okay, again, I will say this. The overall narrative may not be the best, but I do love how much character there is in just the overall world of this game. Which, hey, it's a game based off of Lord of the Rings, so... Yeah,
like I said, the Nemesis system helps create, even personality to work. And like I said, Jova, the sequel goes even more bonkers on that front.
Yeah, again, the way I can see it is, you come for the story, you stay for the Nemesis system.
Basically. Mind you, I don't think overall the story of this and the sequel is that bad.
Oh, no, not even bad.
It has its ups and downs and all arounds, but it's very manageable to me, even as a fan of the series. Mind you, I'm also the same person who still enjoyed the Hobbit movies despite their problems, so maybe I just don't know what the fuck I think, but whatever.
I honestly don't even think the Hobbit films are all that bad. Now they are definitely
they objectively have flaws, Jova.
Oh, definitely. Like. That's my point. I was kind of agreeing with you. There is stuff to enjoy about the Hobbit films, but god damn the pacing.
Alright,
The main...
go on, Pedro, I can explain later.
The main problem that I keep hearing from people who have read the book is that the book just wasn't big enough to sustain 3 movies. That was a ridiculous idea.
And keep in mind, Pedro, that wasn't a decision of Peter Jackson's. That was something that...
Bros and
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Well, ironically enough, Pedro, I can definitely tell you this because that's also from Peter Jackson's mouth. The extended cuts of the movie significantly improve the material.
Ironically enough.
See, the thing is, when I went to watch the first Hobbit, for me the biggest thing is that it takes, maybe I have to watch it again, this time with a frame rate that makes sense. Because I actually...
Part of me legit...
Hold on, Dova.
Sorry.
Yes, Pedro?
No, because one of the big frustrating things for me when talking about the Hobbit... Oh, this is important, maybe?
No, I can just explain a bit. Again, you were just supposed to essentially kill specific targets for a resident army, and when it happens, the specific chief arrives. This is a mission that you will see later on, also repeating in different kind of, alternatives. And at that point, you will need to track back where the chief is and actually kill him. Continue.
Okay. See, one of the big frustrating things for me about the Hobbit movie, the first one specifically, because I didn't see the other ones, is how I can never talk to somebody who... I have yet to find somebody else who watched the high frame rate version, so I can't properly explain my viewing experience to people and having them properly understand, because I have no fucking clue why the hell Peter Jackson thought a double frame rate movie looked good, because it never doesn't look good in my opinion, because everything looks like it's on speed. I
forgot what company.
So unnatural.
What company was behind Gemini Man?
I haven't seen that movie, so
because that one also got the higher frame rate. So I was wondering if it was a company kind of thing.
Let me
anyway,
check.
The thing about this chief is that, as Talion pointed out, the weirdness about it, he loves to tame Caragors, but he's also very afraid of them and potentially can be killed by them. So let's give the cage a little nudge, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, moving on.
Oh, by the way, Pedro, believe it or not, the frame rate for Gemini Man was even higher than Hobbit's.
Yeah,
'cause-
120
Yeah, like
or something,
120 something. Like, what the fuck were they thinking?
And
like,
that
movies
one
have
legit
always been
got-
rendered in 24 frames per second for a reason. Like, it's just like what works for a video game will not work for a movie.
It's
So
not
the-
even that, Pedro. I know what high frame rate, motion sequence, videos or movies or series are supposed to be, because that's how soap operas are actually visualized, at least in my country. They actually are visualized with a higher frame rate, so I'm
And
mostly
I have-
thinking of that when I think of high frame rate movie.
I have
Or
seen
done.
some giant flat screen TVs that do generate higher frame rates for media in general, but good news, Pedro. Apparently, the high frame rate in Gemini Man was so notorious, it actually has been immortalized in the sense that that actually showed up in a lot of mixed response for the movie. Let me see.
So anyway, yeah, thanks to asking the war chief, this particular chief, mind you, it's not properly the war chief, Ratbag has actually climbed the ladder a bit and now can boss these two people around.
How nice.
We only take orders for Gorov. That's the filthy corpse I need you to carry. Now go, go! Say your feet.
That didn't go so well.
That's the thing about Ratbag, he also loves to cut ears as a trophy of sorts, so in this case a proof.
Ratbag is a captain now. Let's go take a gander. Yeah, and when you're done with that, I've got more bodies for you to carry. Meet me at the crossroads. An old friend there is
What
about
fun.
to lose his head.
So I know what you're thinking. Is the game hinting up at the idea of Ratbag betraying you and cutting your head off? If it was, it might have been in an earlier draft, because no, that's not really what happens. We will see soon enough what actually happens to him.
Ratbag sounds like the kind of name Rocket the raccoon would make fun of.
Again, the devs had sort of a bit of a fun giving names to the orcs. Ratbag is actually one that he speaks to for this role, so it's not randomly generated. But some of the others can get really creative, like douche.
Huh.
So yeah, this happened.
You call this a duel? No! I call this losing a duel, you glob!
Well,
Again, Ratbag is also... Yeah, Ratbag is also used a bit for comedy relief.
huh. I'm sure it was fun while it lasted.
We'd better hurry, or he'll lose his head.
And again, Talion really doesn't have much patience for this guy. I can believe that.
I
See, the
mean,
thing,
Ratbag is literally among the people that kind of helped slaughter his family, so yeah, he's had a rough day.
So yeah, you have 4
Orcs.
minutes to actually save Ratbag and also complete this objective. Yes, Pedro?
see, the thing is, like, granted, maybe I have to watch the movie again because it's been years at this point. The other was like in 2014, wasn't it? I
Yes,
think?
the year this was released.
So it's been a long time. But maybe I have to watch it again. But I swear, like, I remember, like, the characters walking, doing that top of the mountain shot like 10 times. Forgot the entire movie or something. They do that shot so much. Like, I get that you love New Zealand, Peter, but damn, how many shots of people walking on top of a mountain do we need?
Well, that's the thing about New Zealand. New Zealand is nowadays a very popular place to shoot
Tourist
stuff for
attraction.
movies. It's got multiple different climates for different sceneries. It of course has the iconic mountains. And hey, you can boast, I filmed where Lord of the Rings was filmed, and one of the biggest advantages, it is relatively one of the cheaper places in the world to shoot films, ironically enough.
Also, according to the movie that me, Pedro, Dweebs, and Shui watched, it has a lot of ships, some of them potentially very hostile.
I will say,
Really?
however,
A
that
hostile
even amongst-
sheep? Now that's something.
You have no idea, Trova.
I will say, however, that there was one scene that even the high frame rate version couldn't ruin for me, which was the scene between Bilbo and Gollum. You know, because if anything, because and mocap Andy Serkis is better than a lot of live action actors to begin with.
So there you go. Now we need to just defeat this guy, and hopefully Ratbag should be able to climb a bit more the ladder. But in this case, we don't have to necessarily kill him, let's instead interrogate him. There we go. Actually, in this first game, you have a bit of a problem, is that whenever you're trying to interrogate someone, you're still vulnerable to be attacked, and the enemies, similar in the Arkham games, love to actually assault you whenever you don't expect. So you probably are better encouraged to clean the room before actually proceeding.
If I recall correctly, with the Arkham games, the way it works is you only question the guy after you've pretty much cleared out all the other mooks anyway.
Mostly in Arkham Knight. In
I feel like it was that in City as well.
I thought in City and Origins the Riddler guy were going separated anyway on their own.
Oh, no, like...
easy to sneak around them.
Oh, no. In City, sometimes there'd be Riddler goons amongst some of the mobs you would fight.
I wanted to add something to what Jova said earlier. Not like Jova said, a lot of the times those moments of the walking are done to cover up load times. But one thing that a lot of people I don't see people bring up as well, again in defense of developers, that one thing that we also have to be understanding when it comes to video games is that there's only so much budget you have, and you cannot possibly render every single cutscene in the game with full mocap thing. You know, so sometimes some of the lesser parts of dialogue have to be done in lower production cutscenes. That's why we see even Final Fantasy 16 still has the character talking to each other in that little, that thing that we see in a lot of games. You know what I mean, right? Like where the characters just stand around.
Back and forward.
Yeah, the back and forth. Because
I actually prefer that because it's actually structured like an actual conversation instead of two people walking around slowly.
Sure.
That's fair, I guess.
Did I miss anything significant?
We just interrogated another, but unfortunately, the warship is actually his twin. Oops.
Oh, boy! And let me guess, because it's his twin, he'll be extra vengeful going after you.
And Ratbag just took the position of the guy we just killed.
Okay. So question, is it always set that it'll be the twin, or was this just a lucky thing you got for this playthrough?
Yes. Again, this is basically a particular story event that is basically introducing you to this mechanic, and as such, is actually having, railroaded characters that you need to kill. But after this, the Nemesis system basically opened up even for the warship spots. So again, it becomes much more chaotic.
That being said, is this like a foreshadowing of how later warships can also have relatives of other mooks or whatnot that you might kill?
But I get the idea developers were on that suspicion drive because the game after this introduces the mechanic of a blood brother, as in, if you kill a guy that is actually signed to be blood brother with another one, the other one will stalk you no matter what.
Wow.
Wait, Ranger.
I love how even the music is trying to be quirky. Yeah, let's talk about a bit of the score. We mentioned the composer, but the score is fine in itself, but it really doesn't hold a candle to the movie score, in how fitting they were. Like, I can tell you that for the second game they tried to be more similar to James Horner's scores, but for this one it's just a bit of its own thing more than anything.
I love how he says that line, a backstabbing bodyguard? Duh! Honestly, I like this guy. Like, yeah, he's a weasel, but he is such an opportunistic weasel who actually can get stuff done when given the chance.
Orcs, am I right?
That's Orcist?
Despite humanizing a bit more, fleshing out more their culture, this game is still unapologetically, asshole-ish towards the orcs. But mind you, it does actually try to balance things out by making sure that they commit so many crimes, in this case, by serving Sauron, that the necessity of Talion is kinda justified. Again, this kind of game provides, in terms of morality, the idea that the orcs are still ruthless and commit atrocities, but what Talion is doing outside of, trying to push them up in order to having the humans in a safer place. We'll have the whole how much do you be pushing yourself in order to go through, but we'll see this later. For the time being, let's put on pause a bit Ratbag side quest and instead focus instead of the guy that we freed, the guy voiced by Travis Willingham.
Hey, look at that! Some of our colleagues survived.
Well, this was, if you forgot, this guy was not on the Black Gate. This was actually previously on the Black Gate, but he deserted in order to go with the outsiders. We discovered, thanks to the artifact story, that he actually encountered a woman from the outsider, he fell in love with her, and actually renounced the Rangers and Gondor in order to actually join her culture. But the wife has actually been captured by the orcs.
Oh dear.
The Uruks have yet to discover the secrets of the blasting powder. We will need to free my men to find out. Do you believe the blasting powder?
So yeah, Hirgon wants to stage up a terrorist attack by actually recovering some actual black powder. Yes, again, before Saruman perfected it by the time of Lord of the Rings, there were potentially some scarce uses a bit here and there. But this also wants to teach you another mechanic in this case, poisoning. You will see soon enough, but the orcs love to drink grog, essentially their liquor beverage. So a perfect opportunity to actually spike it, so it would actually kill them in a more discreet way. You even can get a trophy if you manage to actually have a captain drink a poison grog and actually, die instantly from that.
Let me guess, with the Nemesis system, if you keep doing that, eventually other war chiefs start to wise up to it?
Not for this game. I can tell you that for the next game, one scenario that you can potentially encounter while you're trying to poison the grog of someone is that another guy may show up, someone who might be specialized in poison, and tell you, no, that's not how it's done.
Oh wow, they really did crank things up
like
in
I
the
said,
sequel.
Joe, I have no idea what the amount of voice line that they had to record was, but it has to be on the 1,000 at least. Because it's not like a gigantic group of voice actors like say with the Square Enix game done recently, but it's instead provides a lot of different lines that have to be done for different scenarios. Like they have to be quotes from meeting you, from doing a specific task, from reacting to a specific task, like a background event, a quote from being defeated, one for deciding not to be defeated because that's a possibility that can happen, one if they actually return back. Again, there are actually so many variables, and they actually went above and beyond. And I get the idea that the only reason why in this particular case it was limited for this first game was because instead they had to release this also for the PS3 and Xbox 360, and as it was mentioned, that version of the game really sucks. It's even more limited than this one, but this one obviously it's still a bit bugged down. If you want to play the best version of this, the PC version, if I recall correctly, is the one that should be running at a more smoother frame rate. I don't know if this or the sequel actually got the PS5 upgrade potentially to actually run in 60, but I know that on PC they should.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you acquire this blasting powder? Traded for it with a blustery dwarf. We took his powder
From the mother of that last guy I just killed.
No, for a dwarf. We will actually potentially meet the dwarf he's picking off soon enough as well.
That is only because I leave the hard work to
Again, lots of because this was a time where Sauron was not in full control. Lots of people roam around still Mordor. Some in seek of adventures, other doing other stuff.
How funny would it have been if, like with Hobbit, they had it be another one in the lineage of Gimli?
Thankfully, no. Again, despite the fact that some characters from the books and movies actually show up in this, the games do make a point to try to stay focused on a range of original characters. Do not steal, So at the very least, there's a bit of commitment instead of doing, what Hunt Down the Freeman said. Oh, this guy is totally the secret brother of this previous character.
Oh, good lord! Hunt Down the Freeman. I will never, ever let Steam live down the fact that they let that game be sold on their storefront?
Honestly, Jova, I'm still dead convinced that the entire reason Valve did Half-Life Alyx, and if you know the plot about that game, you know how it ends, they did the plot of that specific ending just so they could retcon out of the way, hand down the Freeman from the normal canon.
Imagine finally rousing them from their Half-Life slumber after all these years, just to say, guys, we are sorry we sold this game for money. It does not speak for us. Here is how things actually went. The only issue is that Half-Life Alyx is kind of a VR exclusive, and I'm like, come on, guys. There's plenty of Half-Life fans who probably don't really want to get VR for that game.
Alright, we gone.
Alright then, clean your swords, and we are back to the races.
Well, in this case, the poisoning. But, well, to be fair, as Hirgon told us, we need to collect the necessary herbs first. Yeah, that's a thing that I only glossed over briefly. Like I said, in order being a game centered around a ranger, you know, one thing that cool game that the game does is to actually provide you two different types of challenges. One, collecting different type of herbs that grow around Mordor, like pipe leaf, you know, atelas, similar. And the other, hunting down specific beasts that roam around. Nothing that you will never encounter in the story, so everything you'll need to see, you'll see properly in the game, you know. But they provide you that extra kind of, you know, minor challenge that nets you extra, you know, experience points if you wanna, you know, level up in a quicker way.
Mm-hmm.
The game actually, you know, provides you a better understanding of your surroundings thanks to the minimap. The herbs that you need to collect are represented by specific icons, but it's either like, say, a star or, you know, fleur-de-lis like type of icon. But it's colored differently depending on what it's supposed to be. Like, say, a mushroom, for example. If it's a specific mushroom that is colored blue, it would be so on the minimap as well. So if it's actually signed that you're supposed to collect those, you will recognize them instantly on the minimap if they show up. So again, the game actually does provide you some ways of identifying what you need to do without holding your hand all the way through.
That's nice.
Search party for your head. I'm pretty sure that's still on your body, mate.
Figuratively, it lives.
What by head does he mean? Like the head that you have in army barracks? That's pretty much the
like
slang word
person.
for toilet. Alright, men, my toilet has been lost. I need you to find it.
Wouldn't be the weirdest quest in a Mordor media.
If you forgot,
Yeah.
the glowing towers are the ones that we activated at the beginning. Again, like I said, I did some of them off screen because again they really not provided much, you know, in terms of showcasing. But when you activate your Wraith Ward, you know, vision with the Wraith, you know, you're able to properly visualize them and climb them. That's why you can see them keeping popping up if activated the Wraith vision.
Will the orcs not smell the poison?
You know,
I'm having a
Dibs,
hard
you know,
time
Dibs, you
thinking
joke,
of,
but when you think
toilet
about
puns
it,
for Lord of the Rings.
you know, Dibs, you joke, but when you think about it, Lord of the Rings trilogy is about everyone fighting over a tiny piece of jewelry.
To the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
The irony.
Well, I mean, everything sounds really mundane when you boil things down. Final Fantasy VII is a quest to stop a rock hitting a sphere. Final Fantasy VIII, you have to stop some dweeb mucking things up for people.
That's the thing, Dweebs. Even trying to describe it simply, Final Fantasy VIII's plot is probably one of the more convoluted because it involves time travel in such an unconventional way.
I will say this though, I feel like 8 uses time travel far better than 13 does.
Well, like that's
Final
Well,
Fantasy.
that's the thing, because they're on two completely different levels. 8 wants to operate on a more chaotic way, while instead 13.2 operates on a fixed, almost railroaded kind of way, which is bizarre in how it's structured.
Yeah. Final Fantasy IX stopped some psychopath ex-actor from taking his anger out on everyone
No,
else.
but it's not even just that too. Like the time travel in Final Fantasy IV doesn't even follow the basic rules of common sense by literally telling us that changing the future somehow changes the past, even though that doesn't make any lick of sense under any kind of logic.
You want to know what's even better? They could have maybe have tried to give us a good reason, but the game couldn't even be arsed to write its own bout of logic. It's just, oh, changing the future changes the past.
It just
Screw
does,
you
except-
about explaining
Well,
that.
And again, it's also the thing about you cannot time travel before the events of the Fall of Cocoon because shut up.
Yeah,
They could
because
not-
I would
they could not
actually...
provide
One
good
for,
gameplay for that.
I got a simple one for 10.
What zero
Go on.
pussy does to a motherfucker?
Yeah, that's
No.
Basically,
No,
Captain
actually, it's even. 10's even simpler. You fuck water.
No. Here's how you sum up 10. Captain Jack Sparrow is the GOAT.
Sure, that works. Yeah, no.
I'll skip 11. I got no.
Question. Since you're very familiar with bad Doctor Who, like, has Doctor Who ever tried to do something on the level of, oh, if you change the future, the past also somewhat changes somehow?
Oh, let us introduce you to a guy called Stephen Moffat. Pedro.
Why am I
no,
not
he did that
surprised?
too?
Why am I not surprised that when almost
So
anything
Final Fantasy
infamous?
13
All right.
Doctor Who off?
How can I explain this? During the match, just to let you know what's happening gameplay-wise, the orcs will immediately drink the grog. The first one who will actually drink it will drop dead poison. The other, believing someone spiked it, will start attacking each other. So it's a good distraction.
Wow! So you can actually turn mooks on each
Literal
other.
gaslighting. But anyway,
Well,
go on,
go on,
please.
Tim. Well, I mean, me personally, I'm not sure about that. But I'm not sure what example Tier's going to mention, but it can't be any worse than resurrecting a character whose actor only died a few years before as a creature that he hates.
Well,
Yeah.
Pedro is talking more about very bizarre, backward, time travel logics and,
Yeah, but that-
rules.
That offends me more than any of that.
Oh no, I understand that, but I just wanted to
yeah,
provide
but
an
that's kind of
example
not
for
what I'm
his
talking about,
argument.
Yeah.
Okay, during the 11th Doctor era, there's essentially this ongoing narrative that two characters, the Doctor that we follow and his love interest, River Song, are essentially time traveling in the opposite direction. So the first time the Doctor meets her, it's basically at the end of her journey and she knows she's about to die. But every subsequent appearance is actually her supposedly previously, knowing less information. But the series kind of sort of treats it like she still knows stuff. It's very bizarre in how things are handled and contributes to the 11th Doctor era to be start of a bit of a weak point to me.
You know, the more I learn about the Stephen Moffat guy, the more he seems like such a tragic fall from grace. Like, from what I understand...
The guy just simply put wants to have a grandiose, bizarre, shocking value type of stories, that will make you go, oh shit, that's actually impressive. But most of the time he tries way too hard and really makes no sense. He was a writer for Sherlock. He was also a writer for Sherlock, by the way.
Oh, that explains a lot. But the sad thing is that it sounds like he was initially a good contributor to the series. Like, what happened to the guy?
My main familiarity with him is his work on the Tintin movie.
Well,
He did
okay, I
that
can tell you
too?
that for his standards, the Tintin movie is pretty much safe because it diverges from the book only relatively when you get down to
crap
it.
that movie is.
Like, I mean, the thing about... Sorry, go on.
So come.
The thing about Stephen Moffat is, like, again, from what Dwibs has told me, he used to be good for the franchise, but at some point he just went to the dark side and, well, is now responsible for some of Doctor Who's absolute worst material.
The more the series went on, the more carte blanche was given to him, and as such, he took advantage of that. Mind you, like we said, like me and Dwibs said, Jova, each era has its ups and downs on its own, and as we've said, some people
No, you finish first. No.
And like we've said, some people potentially judge it a bit too harshly, the more recent seasons, you know. But again, the more truth of the matter is that Doctor Who after arguably to me the middle of the 10th Doctor era, you know, started to be a bit chaotic in how it was presented, mostly because the staff behind it, you know, was more in a sense of, oh, now we're popular, let's try to greenlight these different type of ideas and see if they stick.
I will say, from
Although,
my
hold on,
observations,
Jova. Yes, Waves.
although the funniest thing is that I've mentioned it on Reddit before, but I'll mention it here as well. The funniest thing is that but basically you can judge a lot from an ending of an era, and that, in my opinion at least, the Chris Chibnall era had the better final episode, if you know what I mean.
and
Like
down.
Russell T Davies. Yeah, I'll finish after this cutscene.
Okay. Basically, stroke of luck, the wife of Hirigon is still alive, and actually in good conditions too.
Wow.
Although a bit traumatized, logically. Lord God knows what the orcs did to her. Again, if you're wondering, oh, the female characters in this series are just essentially your damsel in distresses to be rescued, don't worry, we will have a more proactive, you know, roles showing up soon enough. Although Talion is a bit jealous because his family is dead.
Okay, again, if there is one weak point to this game, I will say this. I don't feel like the game.
Agency, yeah.
Well, not just that. I don't feel like the game would be that different if his wife and kid were alive or not. Like, yeah, I get
more
it.
like in the case he can never return to them. Like, how about that? No, we gotta go for the tired cliches.
Yeah, like I feel like it would have been more interesting if they'd been alive, or again, we gotten more out of them than this. Like, again, that is one of the game's shortcomings. Not that it ruins the game for me, but
It's more of a case of, you know, still bogging down the story a bit, admittedly.
because
But
my
not
family
to the point
is
of making it
dead
bad.
adds drama.
Alright, I'll sum it up real quick. Russell T Davis's first ending, now I should say, was really bloated and had some really questionable bits. Stephen Moffat's ending was just basically a retread of a already shit story. And you can also bolt on character assassinating the First Doctor. And Chris Chibnall's ending, yeah, it could be a bit all over the place, but it's the most fun. And when comparing it to Moffat's ending, is both simultaneously good and sad. In that the First Doctor was characterized better in the 30 seconds he had in the Chibnall ending compared to the full hour he had in the Moffat ending.
If I may ask,
I'm particularly fond of the retcons that were attached to that, but sure.
If I may ask, Dribs, as a Doctor Who fan, would you say that it was post-season 10 where, not necessarily going bad, but that was where, you know, some of the cracks were starting to show?
Well, to be honest, I've been going back and watching some of the bits that I missed because I gave up on Doctor Who on the regular after I saw Listen. That was basically one of the first Peter Capaldi stories.
Oh, the 12
and I've only been going back and filling in. Yeah, I've been going back and filling in the gaps since. And to be honest, it was from the Capaldi era where, unfortunately, where a lot of cracks started to show because a lot of season 8 just wasn't that great overall. To be honest, like even the stuff that wasn't written by Moffat, I mean, by extension, on the contrary, the Chris Chibnall era was just a really mixed bag. There were some good episodes, but there were others that didn't quite live up to their potential.
Okay. I should specify, when I said post-season 10, I meant post-10th Doctor. I forgot that you guys don't necessarily group seasons by
Doctor lasts
the
more than one
Doctors.
season. Anyway, tuning for the next part, where we actually continue, and if I already finished, the missions tied to Gollum and, you know, discovering the identity of a race past. See you for that.
See ya.
Boy, past explore. Operation. See it.